Creating from the Heart, the Artistry of Living. I'm here with Tom Brand, who is going to have a show this summer at the Beverly Shores Gallery.
All right.
Right? You excited?
Am I what?
Are you excited?
Oh. How
Tom,
do I show that?
How did you get into painting?
Well,
What happened?
what happened?
Yeah, many years ago, I think.
Many, many years ago. I mean, at my age, thinking way back to high school, and even before that.
So what were you doing that led to painting back then?
What was I doing? Well, I was a student at the Arsenal Technical High School in Indianapolis, Indiana. And they had quite a nice, at least I think it's unusual for a high school. It was a large school. It had many departments, and they had a whole floor of a building dedicated to the arts.
A whole floor? Holy cats, that's a lot.
I think that's unusual for a high school, but it was
Yes.
a big high school. It had a campus, of all things. It used to be I think an army depot or something like that. Now you're stretching my memory a lot.
That's okay.
That goes way back. So, and
So you were in art school back then?
I did what?
You were in art school back then?
Well, no, that wasn't specific an art school. That was just part of the
It was just where you preferred
high
to
school.
spend your time sometimes in high school, right?
Yeah. So
And
somehow
were you painting then?
well, not really. I think you start off by drawing,
Okay.
and I think probably pastels.
Oh, I love
And I had
pastels.
an art teacher her name was Mrs. Barr, and she was a sprightly old lady, and she encouraged me. And as a matter of fact, after I graduated from high school, I was so interested in the art world. I went back to school as a postgraduate, and I just stayed in one classroom all day long, a classroom of Mrs. Barr, and I painted my self-portrait, and I don't know quite what else, but the classes came and go, but I just stayed there. I was like a fixture on the wall, and I painted all day long.
That's marvelous.
And in those days it was oil, and I think what I painted on was what they call a canvas board.
Okay.
It was a canvas mounted on a board. But Mrs. Barlow gave me an easel in the class, and I don't know, I was like a fixture on the wall.
So you got to follow your passion early.
Yes.
You did. You know you're an exception.
Yeah, I think I was.
Not everybody gets to do that.
I know.
That's amazing.
Well, at one point there, I think it was during the right after World War II. I knew I was going to be drafted. I couldn't get away from that because I was 18 years old, and so I thought I'd just make mark time by going back to school until I was drafted. I was drafted, and I spent 2 years in the United States Navy. That was my choice, either the Army or the Navy. I chose the Navy.
And where did you go?
Where did I go in the Navy?
Yeah.
Well, let's see.
Were you in the Pacific? Or were you?
No, I didn't go anywhere. It was post-war. It was after the war.
Okay.
WW2 we're talking about.
Got it.
And So I got into Little Creek, Virginia, in the Amphibious Corps, which means landing craft.
Yes.
And I was had a little bit of training in the mechanics, and I was in charge of the diesel engines on this big landing craft.
Oh, that's a far cry from artwork.
Huh?
That's a far cry from art.
I know.
It's just a different art, right?
However, somehow they knew I could do something, so they put me in charge of making posters for training of the new recruits in the Navy. And I used to make big posters just with lettering, basically with a ballpen pen.
What happened next?
What happened next?
Yes. Did you
Well,
go?
I finally got out of the Navy. They discharged me because the war was over. They didn't really need me anymore.
Okay.
So they let me out before my 2-year term let up.
And then where did you go?
Well, I went home.
All right.
I was only 18.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, I knew I wanted to be an artist. How that came about, I don't know. It's like kind of strange in my head.
I just was going to wonder about that. But you'd been spending a lot of time in Mrs. Barr's class.
Yes, I was.
And that's what made you happy.
I suppose that was it.
So it's good to follow your dreams, right?
Right. And there was only one museum in Indianapolis called the John Heron Art Museum.
Okay.
I think I even took a little class there too.
Uh-huh.
But the situation was, back in those days, what we call modern art today, it didn't really exist.
Okay.
So everything was quite traditional.
Uh-huh.
You know.
Are you still traditional?
No. You can take a look at my...
So
in back of me, there's a painting.
What took you out of being traditional? What piqued your interest?
Well, I love the whole idea of paint.
Okay.
And it's a little difficult to play around with paint when you have to paint traditionally. Although I have a self-portrait of mine here somewhere that was traditional.
Okay. But you allowed yourself to be free, I think.
Yes.
How did you do that?
I don't know.
You just didn't stop.
That's right. Even from those days to today, I've always been an artist.
Uh-huh.
And as you can see, I've experienced form and color,
Yes.
shape, and tradition. I put a great emphasis on shape and form and arrangement of things, and also the texture itself of paint.
Uh-huh.
And
I think it still gets you excited today,
what does?
the texture of paint.
Oh yeah, sure. I still do that. And of course, I am interested in form as well.
Yes.
And I create forms.
And how do you do that?
Instinct.
There you go.
More than that.
It sounds like you've lived a lot of your life by instinct.
Well.
Did you meet Carol by instinct?
She's nodding no. Well, she's a fellow artist.
Yes.
I'd been married twice before.
Okay. You finally found a good one, I guess.
And
You finally found a good one, I guess.
Oh, sure. Well, my first wife was a good one too.
Okay.
Mother of my 5 children.
Woo!
None of my children are artists. I never encouraged it because I knew how tough it was.
What made it so tough?
What made it so tough?
Mm-hmm.
Well, trying to find my way in the art where my vision was unique
Mm-hmm.
and distinct from other people's.
Mm-hmm. I'd say you did a good job.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
But
And so what are we going to see at the Beverly Shores Gallery?
paintings.
Yes.
Maybe even a pastel or two. I'm not sure.
Ooh,
I've got some pastels.
okay. Are we going to see things from the beginning or current or
Who makes that decision?
you do?
I do.
Yeah, you
already-
do. You already decided? I guess you have your
Well,
plan.
it's such a small gallery. I don't know how I could show my long career.
A little something from each,
Really?
maybe.
I can do that.
Okay.
I'm open to suggestions. But,
It sounds to me like you live by your wits.
well, is that what intelligence is called? Wits?
That's what I call it.
Okay.
And it's more than just book learning.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, it is. Yeah, I'm many persons. I'm not just an artist.
good. You're sensitive to other things.
A lot of other things.
Great.
I love to read.
Uh-huh.
And music. I can't hear that. I can't hear well enough to pick up music. I have a player over there that has 300 CDs in it, and I subscribe to Chicago Symphony Orchestra.
So you keep yourself current. You keep yourself present.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I bet in some ways, some of what you listen to informs what you paint.
Well, yes and no. After all, one is sound, the other is just a two-dimensional surface.
That's true.
So, I'm not interested in intriguing forms and how they relate to one another,
Uh-huh.
but yet maintain a certain unity. And I think my wife is listening. Does this sound all right?
Yes. You tell her about the Art Institute.
Tell me about the Art Institute.
Well, it was called the School of the Art Institute.
Right.
In those days, it was actually part of the building itself. I don't think that's true now.
Okay.
But in other words, if I felt I needed a little stimulation, I'd just get up from my easel and walk around the Art Institute. I
Uh-huh.
learned a great deal that way,
I bet.
just by looking.
Mm-hmm.
And
So when were you at the Art Institute?
what?
When were you at the Art Institute?
Let me see. Now you're stretching my memory back too far.
Were you just out of high school? Was it after you'd been?
Well, I had to go to high school and then the Navy.
Okay.
That's a couple of years.
Yes.
And then I remember now that Mrs. Barr encouraged me to continue with my art, and she suggested the Art Institute of Chicago.
And so you went.
So I applied,
Mm-hmm.
and they let me in.
Yay.
Yeah. So,
And you were there for a couple of years?
oh yeah.
Okay.
On the GI Bill.
I never,
Oh,
I don't think I graduated per se. I didn't think that was important to graduate. The important was to have the experience
uh-huh.
with artists and teachers, etc. And a lot of my friends were artists. And I never lost my intense interest in all things artistic.
Mm-hmm. What else are you curious about in terms of art?
Say again.
You're curious about a lot of things
Yeah,
about art.
yeah,
And one of them is painting
right,
and forms and how they relate to each other.
right.
And
That's important to me.
it is. What makes that so important? What
Because,
intrigues you?
well, to me, that's the essence of art. Shapes and colors and relationships.
Uh-huh.
And when I paint, I try to always put some kind of interesting and exciting form or shape.
Mm-hmm.
And beyond that, it's how they relate one to another.
Mm-hmm. Meaning the forms or the paintings even?
Yeah, the whole thing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So,
Do you have a favorite color?
my favorite? No, I
No.
try to work with a full palette.
Okay.
As you can see from my paintings.
Yes, I can. I
And,
love that one. We're going to show that one at the end. So we'll have a nice picture of it.
Yeah,
That will be good.
right.
Have you shown your pictures in other places, your paintings?
Oh, sure.
Where have you-
Sometimes even in a restaurant
There you
in
go.
Chicago. and I lived on Dover Street, which was just
Uh-huh.
a half a block away from Uptown Center Hull House.
Yes.
And they have a big gallery there.
Uh-huh.
At one point, I was a curator of the shows they put on, including my own.
There you go.
So I worked a lot with the art center, and so they had the center of the building was a big gallery, and I had no trouble filling it up.
There you go.
I've always been very prolific.
I think maybe you're a little like me, which is you get up in the morning and you're itching to go create.
Oh, it's not that intense.
No?
No. First I have breakfast.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, sure.
But things around you inspire you, I can tell.
What?
Things around you inspire you, I can tell.
It could be a lot of things. Sometimes I just go outside, just looking at what's happening in nature. I can see forms and shapes. And I thought, well, I could put that in my painting.
There you go.
But it's always abstracted. I take just from what I want, what I need, and what I want.
What makes you happy?
What makes me happy?
No, you take what you need and what makes you happy when you go outside in nature.
I don't quite understand that question.
That's okay. You are happy in nature, right?
Of course.
Yes.
Who isn't?
I don't know.
Well, I used to do a lot of other things.
Uh-huh.
I used to race a car, as you may know.
You did?
Oh, yeah. I have a model. Sure, my race car.
When did you race cars?
Oh, now you're stretching me a little bit. That's the last
raced
car race.
a
That's
car like
Formula
this?
One Grand Prix. Very fast.
Where did you race this?
Various courses in Chicago and Wisconsin.
Were you good at it?
Yes, very good. You have to be good to race a car like that.
I would say
That was
so.
the fastest car in our club. I remember the Chicagoland Sports Car Club. And I had the fastest car in the club. It was so fast that it penalized me.
They penalized you?
Yeah, that's
They gave you a handicap. They said you had to have a certain amount deducted from your speed or something?
Yeah,
They gave you a handicap. Oh my goodness.
yeah. That's a very fast car. The fastest car in the club.
It looks like it would be.
That would penalize me. They'd start me half a lap.
Half a lap?
Yeah, so.
And you won anyway, I bet.
Huh?
And you won anyway?
Did I win any races? Almost
Yeah.
every one.
Yeah, even though you had, you know. Yeah, right.
They penalized me, and I still passed everybody.
There you go.
Came in first. That's a little dusty.
You have to be observant to do stuff like that.
That's pretty what?
Observant. You have to be able to see the right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well.
You have to be quick.
Yeah, right. Before that car, I had a Peerless, which was just a Triumph engine car, a coupe, but it wasn't very fast.
And then you got this car?
Then I found they were offering cars like that in England for a really good price. So.
And so you bought one?
Yeah, I only paid $3,000.
Back in the day.
Yeah. Actually, the formula changed from 1.5 liter to 2.5, and this was a 1.5. That's a fairly small engine. But it was a high revving, powerful engine. The engine is in the rear.
Uh-huh.
The gas tank and other things up forward.
So, you were a race car driver? Was this when you were also an artist, or did the art?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Right.
This part of the spectrum and this part of the spectrum? That's amazing.
Yeah.
Who would have
I'm
thought?
not just one person.
And then you were a sailor.
You were a sailor?
What?
You
I'm
sailed?
a sailor, yeah. I had a King's cruiser. It was all wood, and I had to restore it. So I had to strip all the paint off and take it down to beerwood, which is African mahogany. Very pretty boat. And I even raced that.
You did?
Yeah, but it was a full keel boat, so it wasn't that fast.
Where did you race that?
Lake Michigan. What else? And oftentimes I'd cross the lake.
Go to Chicago from here?
From Chicago to Michigan.
Oh my
Straight
goodness.
across.
Yes. That is amazing. Pretty fast, I guess. You really seem to like speed.
I know, but sailboats aren't fast.
That's
Not
true.
like that.
That's true. That's true. Well, do you have any advice for young, budding people who are trying to find themselves in life?
In life?
There are a lot of people around who are getting out of high school and trying to decide whether to go to college and maybe not. And then they're trying to decide whether to get a job or whatever. Do you have any advice for them?
Do what turns you on.
There you go.
First, you have to know what the hell turns you on.
Well, I suspect that if you just move through life and you stay curious, that sooner or later...
Curiosity.
Yeah. I mean, Mrs. Barr, there you go.
Yeah, she was a very traditional.
But she didn't mind your doing what you did.
No.
In fact, she encouraged it.
Well, not really.
Oh.
I mean, she was very traditional. In those days, you painted what you saw.
So she wanted you to go to the Art Institute to paint what you saw? And then look what you did. You paint what inspires you.
Well, even in those days, the Art Institute was fairly traditional.
It took people like
Matter
you.
of fact, there was a group that was formed that was in opposition to what they were.
What the Art Institute was
Yeah.
doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was called Exhibition Momentum, which of course I joined right away.
Of course.
And we put on our own shows. And I remember our first show was Werner Bookstore on Michigan Boulevard.
Uh-huh.
It was a group show. Even those days, I never won any awards.
Well, you were too out there.
What?
You were experimental in their minds.
Well, I was trying to find my way.
Yeah. Looks like you did a good job.
Well, thank you. It's been fun.
It has been fun, and I suspect it's not over. I think you're still producing.
I'm still inventing.
Good.
I have many paintings. I can show you some of them. I have a couple of hundred in the garage. And
Okay.
downstairs I got another 100.
You're going to have a hard time choosing, aren't you?
It's hard to make that decision.
Yeah, but you have an instinct about it, I think.
Well, if I know who the juror is,
Uh-huh.
and more often I don't get into the show entry because the juror is just too traditional.
Oh, well.
I ain't traditional.
Well, I'm glad you're going to bring your non-traditional perspective
Right.
to Beverly Shores this summer.
Yeah.
I thank you.
Yeah. Well, I've shown there before. Did I ever have one man show there? I can't remember.
Well, we'll...
Probably, but I can't remember when, but you had a one-person show at the Brower. And
At
he's
the
having
Brower.
in South Shore Arts in Munster and
Okay.
at the Lebesnick and number of,
So you've been to the Lebesnick,
Yeah.
you've been to the Bower,
Yeah.
and you've been all kinds of places.
Right.
Munster,
That's true.
really amazing.
I don't
Quite
think it's amazing.
accomplished.
I just.
You just can't help yourself.
Yeah. Well, opportunities come forward.
There you go.
I try to get involved.
That's good. We're grateful for your involvement in the arts because you keep us thinking. You keep us curious.
Yeah. After all, if I didn't have my art, I don't know what I'd be.
Well, we don't have to find out.
Yeah.
Because maybe you'd still be a race car driver. Or
That was not. I raced in club races, which means there was no money involved.
maybe you'd be still a sailor.
Oh, there's no money in that either.
Well, I want to thank you for sharing with us and sharing your art at the depot.
Well, that's good.
This
I
summer.
hope other people enjoy it.
I hope they do too. Thank you.
I find that most people are just very reluctant to make any opinion. Some do, most don't.
Well, even if they don't have an opinion, somewhere inside them, what you do and they see impacts them.
I hope so.
Me too.
That's all we can do, isn't it? We can just hope that things will
just
turn
hope.
out.
That's right.
Uh,
Or as my father says, it'll always work out, Suzy. However that is.
yeah.
Thank you, Tom, for sharing with us.
Okay.
And we wish you the best.
Okay.